like the smartest person in the room isn't always the most intelligent.
No.
Do you know what I mean? And I think the massive one, I think I probably said it a couple of podcasts, is that Ben Francis is the pivotal what this should be.
Yeah.
Like with Gymshark, he's obviously a multi-billion-pound company, but he learned that he wasn't a CEO credential person. He didn't have the knowledge how to grow a business over that. So he actually created himself a position to step aside. And that's what allowed Gymshark to flourish.
That's why, like, what we're doing is just incredible, because I think we've all been there, like trying to build something on your own.
Yeah.
And like, even just trying to find good people, even if you have accepted the fact, like, I need to delegate, I can't do this, I don't have the expertise, it is then finding someone that can do it. And not that, having the time to find someone as well.
Yeah.
So it's like you have put the time aside to try and inquire, like to find someone. Then you find someone, you're speaking to someone, then you realise they're just talking absolute rubbish and don't really know what they're doing. And I spent a lot of time, a lot of money just trying to find good people to do what I was doing.
Okay, I'll come clean. This is actually, I do e-commerce. And it was at that point that, Ryan and Reese, we had a chat and stuff. And he said, well, why don't you come on board and support members? So I started that on a part-time basis, just supporting members from web design perspective, and sort of just general business operations, things like that, to the point where actually it just got, like, the change had grown so much that I couldn't support on a part-time basis. People were saying I can't get in.
Well, we've now got what?
3 weeks. It's
1,000 active members.
Growing quickly.
Yeah, massively.
Yeah, and that's massively. Where you come into it.
And yeah. Okay, guys, welcome to the next instalment of Change Podcasts. We've had some feedback from people who've just kind of said they'd like to know a bit more about us and our journeys and where we've come from and kind of our achievements in the e-commerce world. So I guess that's what we're going to be discussing today. Who's going to jump in?
I don't mind going first if you want.
Go for it.
Yeah.
I think it's interesting. I think it's finding out the person behind the actual expert is what we're trying to achieve. And I think we very much, all of us have a different personality, which really blends really well as a team. But yeah, we all come from a very different level of, like, in terms of corporation, as well as obviously where we come from, that building up from the start. For myself, I started in sales, so I probably had one of the worst jobs ever. I did door-to-door sales. So I was that annoying person just knocking on your door, trying to sell you a window or a gutter cleaning. But I think it very much, when you're doing something that is such a large repetitiveness in a day, you somewhat become confident in yourself and the ability to talk and process things at a quicker rate. So what my door-to-door sales were, we did around about like 100 doors a day. And I think it creates a sense of resilience, because if someone says no to you like 99 times, I think we, on average, out of 100 doors, you probably make like one sale. So you got to think you're getting told no 99 times. So it creates a sense of resilience. But from there, that allowed me to be confident in being able to take a no and handle a no, and processing how to not be affected by the no's. And be more resilient in terms of what I wanted to progress going forward. From door-to-door sales and management in sales, it always led through where I went a bit more corporate, for a level of stability. I went into the cooperative bank, where that's where my account management and my digital knowledge kind of like started to increase, because I wanted to understand a little bit more on how you can have a concept of like banking, which is essentially a Stone Age like process. Like, people like corporation banks and like UK banks at the moment are very much set in the ways of, like, the systems that we used were built in like 1994. It was like teletext, like ordering on them holidays and stuff like that. And it was like trying to understand how I could somewhat modernize what it was, and that kind of like led me into a process of where I became somewhat aware of not at the time of an expert, but like you're somewhat aware of the possibilities and the opportunities that are marketing in terms of Facebook, Google, Instagram. Because I think back then, like Amazon wasn't a thing, or wasn't as big of a thing when I first started, and nor was TikTok. So it was like, what is available as an opportunity, and what can we do back then? Because I think the only Alibaba, AliExpress wasn't really around, so sourcing was an issue as well. But I think one of the only digital things that you could sell from was like, I think Wish. Do you remember what Wish is?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Wish was
Like
a
that.
thing. When Wish, to be fair, back like 10 years ago, I think because Amazon wasn't such a big thing, you could sell anything and everything online. It was a lot easier.
Yeah, it was.
To create, you had less of a focus on, and Anna wasn't required. There wasn't a level of branding. You could literally put a store with 100 different products on and go and sell it.
Yeah.
And yeah, so that was the opportunity where I kind of like modernized and understood what my role was in Co-op was as a project manager. It was to develop different projects in there and like how I could modernize it. And then through that, mistakenly, I probably shouldn't have been looking into marketing for the cooperative bank because there wasn't a requirement. But from looking into like how to modernize and bring it the speed up to it, it was where I found marketing online.
I think that's with particularly with project management, you kind of your expertise kind of has to fall across many disciplines, and that's probably why you ended up with that whole marketing piece, because you have to look at every aspect of the project. So you would have been exposed to that, and kind of like, was it kind of naturally your mind just kind of went that way? You felt yourself more drawn to the marketing side of things?
Yeah, 100%. I think because I had that sales background behind myself, and I already had to understand how to market and create different concepts of marketing, because every person when you're doing door-to-door sales, and this is what kind of like has allowed me to understand the requirement of branding, because in door-to-door sales, you're branding yourself, but you have to have multiple personalities because not everyone's going to buy for the same reason. So that's where my idea of branding kind of like was established, because I could see I had to have a different persona or a different angle to work each individual door to get them sales.
It's a bit like when you're looking at ads at the minute. As soon as that person opens the door, you need to know what type of person that is. Like, who's your target audience? Like, who are they? And then how do you adapt your brand tone of voice to speak to the person on the other side of that door? Yeah, I get that completely. Yeah,
and like I said, through that transition, then I went into agency work for a company working with. We at one time, I think we had around about 50 to 60 different clients, ranging from someone that was spending 2,000 all the way up to spending millions and millions and millions. Some of the bigger ones, some of the ones that you've got companies like Law & More, which is a poster company. That we work quite closely with. We have different fashion brands, teeth whitening ones, obviously, that we that Anna was competitive with. So Anna was always a competitor during my process. And used to nick a lot of ideas off Anna's. Anna had good branding. We were like, we'll take that idea. It works well for us.
You're welcome.
So even before I met Anna, I was already aware of Anna. So it was I was starstruck when I met you, Anna. Wow, this is LA Cosmetics. And then I say it was a progression from there, where the funny thing is when I messaged Ryan in 2021, because there was an issue with iOS. Where phones updated and tracking was limited. So you couldn't track people from Facebook or apps onto the website without being approved. And I think it was like 90% of people click not to be approved, not to be tracked. So you've gone from seeing everything to seeing 5%.
That was iOS 14, wasn't it? I remember literally like overnight, sales seemed to just drop off a cliff. You're like, what's happened?
So it was that discussion with Ryan where he asked me to come on and help members because of like my expertise in where I go scaling people. And how we had the discussion where we were first speaking about obviously what we could do in terms of tracking and how we could improve it to help the members at the time. And it was where I kind of like helped myself, well, not help myself, but Ryan asked, can I come and help a couple of members and kind of like just blossom from there? And I think that's like my story of processing through from sales understanding the level of branding because you're kind of made to understand it at an accelerated rate. And if you're doing something 100 times a day, you will learn at an accelerated rate, to project management and stumbling into a career where, like I said, my initial thing was I was on scholarship to go to America for football, and turned out I liked alcohol a little bit too much. But that's kind of like my progression.
That's great.
Stalking Anna.
Good stuff, man.
Very interesting, Anthony.
But that's the things that, Anna, that's the things that happen in business.
Yeah.
With, like, you know, obstacles happen in business and you need to pivot.
Yeah.
So with the iOS thing that come in, you know what I mean?
We had to adapt real quick.
You have to transition into different things, you know what I mean?
But I think how many people would have dropped off at that point.
Absolutely,
Just been like, do you know what? I'm never going to get back there.
That's the difference between those that are successful and those that aren't. They're going to be like, oh, that's it. I can't track anybody anymore.
Yeah.
That means I'll
give up.
I'm finished. I'm finished.
Whereas,
like I say, those that actually say, right, okay, what's the way around this? How can I get past this? Is there another avenue where I can still kind of understand who's coming to the site and what's going on in order to continue my marketing strategies and know where I can direct my efforts? Those are the ones.
Yeah.
That
The massive thing that got affected was like CBD and THC.
Oh yeah.
So because so the process of getting around it, you had to install. So the way that Facebook works is called third data. So essentially, what third data is on your pixel is like someone goes to your website, then the website goes back. So that's third party data. But you have to install different meta tags and UTMs on your website, which tracked first person data. But because you weren't allowed to, per se, sell CBD, or even if it was like zero THC on Facebook, you weren't able to install these correct meta tags. So you weren't able to advertise any form of marketing for that niche. But it's only the ones that kind of then fought outside the box that were able to continue the marketing. They went more like down a traditional route. A lot of them went to like magazines, men's fitness. But that was the industry that massively got affected, was because you had to install something on the website. There was no angle of getting round promoting them until now. You now have like a bridge page where you're over 20. Similar to gambling, you can do over 21, under 21. But that again affects your conversion rate because it's an additional click. Yeah. But like I said, that was the industry that kind of like just went from a blossoming industry. Like people like, there was Nature Can, which was Freddie Flintoff's brand. Yeah. There was a couple of Andrew Flowers, who was a boxer. There was quite a lot of sports stars that was getting into it. But then now there's so much money that's been wasted, and there's very few that are successful because you can't advertise as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, go for it, Anna.
So I think like with my family, with all of them have got like their own traditional kind of businesses. So I think like I've been brought up with like very, very hardworking like people around me, but physically seeing people working hard. Like so it's like window and doors businesses, pizza shops, and like just all stuff like that. So it's been around me my whole life. So I always knew like I just didn't want to be in like a 9 to 5 kind of thing, or like have
in you from the start, in your blood.
Yeah.
Italian blood. Although she said grazie yesterday and spelled it completely wrong. I don't know how Italian you are.
So yeah, my story is just really quite strange. I'm not going to tell all of it. But I obviously had Yasmina quite young. I was 19. But from then I went to uni. I'd done psychology and criminology. I was working in a call centre as well at the time, part-time. But then when I finished, I was trying to get a job like in that field. And I was just like, it's ridiculous. Like, I'd be working full-time. I'd never see Yaz. And I'm getting like next to nothing for it. Like, you know, like when you look at other jobs, you're like, I could literally work in Sainsbury's and get the same for having quite a specialist job. So that's when I started speaking to my dad. And at the time, he was heavily into sports. So we created like a health and wellbeing program together, and then started implementing it into schools, nurseries, like independent classes. And that's pretty much where I really learned all of my branding, because because none of us like just want to think small. We're like, yeah, we can franchise it. We can have different ambassadors in different areas. So the whole thing, even though my expertise wasn't in like health and well-being, we had experts come in and do it. Obviously, my dad is very specialist area. But that's where I learned my branding. And then I realised, like, as we started doing these classes, people thought that I had bought a franchise. Like, they were like, oh, is it like, where have you bought this from? What company are you like doing all this? Because it's really cool. We'd like created all these characters. That is really, really good program. And then me and my dad started talking about franchising it. And then that's where we got like franchise experts to come in, help us create our franchise manual, and learning off all these people that have franchised really, really big companies and then done master franchises in like different countries. They made me realize how important branding was, and to be like, everything needs to be clear cut. Like, you need to know the vision for your brand. So when you have someone else come on board, they know what they need to do. So everyone's working to the same brand guidelines. And that just really instilled that into me. And then like when you look at big brands and what they do and their franchises, like everything's uniform. Like, it's like if you go into a franchise in Ipswich, it's the same, sometimes a little bit different, but the same in London.
Yeah.
You know, there'll be little things that might be similar, but it's got the same feel. And I just learned so much during those years, that period. And yeah, it was really, really good. And then from there, I kind of got to a stage where I was doing quite well, but I just wanted to do something that I was more interested in. There was personal factors to it as well. The fact that I had another daughter and then was like pregnant with twin boys. So I was like, I just can't. I can remember being like really heavily pregnant, and I was still going around to like all the schools, carrying like all this equipment around to like schools and stuff. And I was just like, I can't do this. And like, I just wanted a bit of downtime. But obviously that didn't last too long. And I was like, oh, I'm bored now. Bored of just looking after kids. So then I went into something completely new, and it was like the beauty niche.
Yeah.
Trained in all these different treatments. Started my own skincare and laser clinic. So I was doing that for about a year, but just really enjoyed just offering a service, and just, it worked around my kids. It was quite nice. And then I don't really know what sparked it, but everyone, I don't know why, but everyone kept talking about teeth whitening. So that's when I like started looking into products, and I was obviously doing this all on my own, like finding products, figuring out like the legalities of it all. And I was doing that in the background while working. So originally my idea was just to sell it in my clinic and other clinics that I had, to just sell to clients. And that's what I done. But it went so well. And again, like, I'm not making this up, but people did actually say to me like, oh, so whose product? Because I'd obviously branded it. I'd branded it. And everyone was like saying, oh, so whose product is this? Like, where do you get the products from? They didn't think it was my company, which was really nice to have like people say that again. But it went really well. Like, I became really well known in my hometown for like people buying teeth whitening off me. And then, you know, it kind of like expanded into like Colchester, Essex. And then I was working at the time actually with Gemma Collins' manager. So he was going to help me with basically like a launch to go online. And there's this lovely restaurant in Ipswich. I'd planned like a really nice launch day to get like some nice PR, have a celebrity there as well. So I'd ordered all my stock so I could get a nice display. And then COVID happened. Yeah. And I was just like, what am I going to do? I had all this stock, obviously lost out loads of money on this launch day. And that's when I was like, okay, I need to go online. And then that's kind of when my online journey really started. But that's when I realised everything that I'd learned from all these other businesses, just general marketing stuff, branding, had put all of that into the online world, realised it is very, very similar. There's just some intricate things like Facebook marketing, like website side is more the designing of it. And I know I speak about it in a lot of the podcasts where obviously at that time it was just me. So I tried my best to learn everything, and like websites where I was like, you know, like what we talk about, sometimes you try and you like, as much as you're trying, you're just not going to get it with someone that's had years of experience to do it. So that was where I really learned like delegating a lot more into stuff like that, and being like, I can't do it all. Can't do my website. I can't do my marketing. But the thing that I was really good at was obviously the branding, but I loved working with content creators. Yeah. My Instagram, I really loved like posting on there, but other stuff. But it's really hard to trust to be like, okay, I'll give you all of that. You just do it. Yeah. But it's like, even though you're not the expert in it, you still kind of feel like you know better. Yeah. But that's where I learned to be like, there you go. You just do it.
And it's really good to like, in business, it's good to understand each of the elements that fit into your business and how it works and how to do it. But you don't necessarily have to be the expert in it. Yeah. And we say it a lot, like you can't work on your business whilst you're working in your business. If you want to grow it, you have to know at what point you have to relinquish control to somebody else to deal with that aspect of your business, whether it is outsourcing to a web designer or a store builder, or whether it's outsourcing to somebody that's going to run your ads for you, whether it's an agency or whatever. Yeah. So that then you can focus on the bits that only you can do, that only you can control.
Yeah, I think they say that the smartest person is in the room isn't always the most intelligent.
No.
Do you know what I mean? And I think that the massive one, I think I probably said it a couple of podcasts, is that Ben Francis is the pivotal what this should be. Yeah. Like with Gymshark, he's obviously a multi-billion-pound company, but he learned that he wasn't a CEO credential person. He didn't have the knowledge how to grow a business over that. So he actually created himself a position to step aside. And that's what allowed Gymshark to flourish. Yeah. I said, you don't have to be the most intelligent person. Not everyone can know. Like, I don't know website design. I don't know branding to the same extent. I don't know social media. Josh doesn't let me take pictures because I can't take pictures. But I can do Facebook marketing, I can do Google marketing, I can understand data analytics, and I can probably help you scale beyond. Yeah. But like I said, if you want a picture, don't ask me to take a picture because I can't do it.
But that's why, like, what we're doing is just incredible, because I think we've all been there, like trying to build something on your own. Yeah. And like, even just trying to find good people, even if you have accepted the fact, like, I need to delegate, I can't do this, I don't have the expertise, it is then finding someone that can do it. And not that, having the time to find someone as well. Yeah. So it's like you have put the time aside to try and inquire, like to find someone, then you find someone, you're speaking to someone, then you realise they're just talking absolute rubbish and don't really know what they're doing. And I spent a lot of time, a lot of money just trying to find good people to do what I was doing.
The thing is as well, making the biggest thing that we've kind of learned, and the biggest thing we can achieve, is that we've spent millions, we've seen millions pass through marketing. You've seen £1 million brands, and like James, obviously I don't know if James or Josh are going to go about next, but they've seen £1 million infrastructures within social media, £1 million infrastructures on websites. So like the best of it is that we've made mistakes. That the purpose of an expert is to guide you away from what we made mistakes. Because trust me, I've made mistakes on £1 million accounts. Yeah, that's cost me contracts and stuff like that. Yeah. So you know what I mean? I can avoid them mistakes. I can teach. The biggest thing is that we've learned from the mistakes to avoid them, to give you that level of expertise and the understanding. But like I said, I'm sure you guys have seen and can expand on like your story and where you've seen that £1 million infrastructure. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you're right. I mean, but even with all of the mistakes that we've made, with how fast the landscape changes with e-commerce, you're never always going to get it right. No. You know, there's always going to be opportunities where you think everything you've done is right, and you go, that's going to nail it. And then all of a sudden you're like, why is that not working? Everything that we've put in place says to me that should work.
Thankfully,
but
I've
then
seen
it doesn't.
Thankfully, we've all seen greater success than the fails.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? That's why we're here.
But I think it is.
You do learn a lot from
Like
them.
it is because I think
learn
when
a
we
hell
speak
of a
to
lot.
members, sometimes they I think they forget we have
Yeah.
been there.
We're not robots.
Like I can remember when I'd spent so much on getting UGC creators this ad that I thought was gonna just do incredible, and it didn't, and I was just like, you know, and you're just kidding me.
Yeah, I think my whole journey into e-commerce. I mean, I actually started out training to be a pilot. E-commerce was never where I was going to go. I started out training to be a pilot. That was going to be my plan. Flying backwards and forwards from Cyprus on a daily basis. That was the dream back then. And I ended up falling into airports. And I went to work for an airport, and I didn't finish my pilot training, and I stayed at that airport for 20 years, working in the corporate world. I did a variety of jobs in that airport. Contrary to popular belief, I was never a baggage handler. Nothing wrong with baggage handling. Not that type of baggage. But yeah, I did a variety of jobs working through airports, and kind of worked my way up into a sort of senior manager position, running a department, and was responsible for multi-million pound contracts, and ran a multi-million pound budget whilst working at the airport, and also did a whole load of work in process improvement and process efficiency and project management and stuff like that. And that role kind of exposed me to a wealth of areas of business operation, from finance to project planning to CapEx management to budget management to general business operations, regulation, legislation, marketing, branding. I mean, when I worked there, we went through 2 rebrands in a time at the airport. So working through how you not only come up with the brand, but how that all works, and then how you deliver it, how you then implement that across your business. So all of that kind of stuff really helped me when it came to the online world, and understanding, well, how do you take this brand and implement it into your website? I mean, I've always been a bit of a techie geek. Always worked in computers. Well, while I was training to be a pilot, I was at uni studying computer science. So I've always been a bit techie, and I find computers really easy and creative. I was always good at art when I was a kid. But so all of that kind of stuff, when it comes to web design, it just comes quite naturally to me. But also kind of all of that other expertise with project management and all of that made me very methodical in my approach to web design, and how aspects need to be implemented, how you change and test, and all of this type of stuff. And yeah, while I was working in the airport, my dad was always the one who said, there's more to life than just working 9 to 5 till you're 65 and then retire and hope that you've paid your mortgage off and that you've got enough pension to enjoy the rest of what's left of your life. And that's when we kind of started getting into e-commerce. He found a guy online that was saying, I've created this system. This is how I make money. And this was back in the day when we didn't have Google Ads. He started off putting ads in the newspaper. And people were sending checks to him, filling out a form, sending him a check. And this guy was then sending back it wasn't an ebook, it was a book with the system inside, and following the steps like that. Yeah. Crazy. I mean, this is right back in the day. I'm really showing my age now. I'm not that old. But yeah, from there, we started looking into things like, how do we then create products to sell online? And we kind of started finding out about master resale rights and private labeled rights, where you could actually buy a digital product and buy the master resale rights to this digital product, put your brand on it, and sell it online as a digital product, or even as a physical product, and started selling things like the 5-day ab workout. If ever you used to see those ads, 5-day ab workout, or 30 days learn how to do Google Ads, which 30 days back then, you could learn how to do Google Ads in 30 days. So we started selling products like that. And I remember when we went to Bali last year, that was a bit of a a journey for me, because not only was it like my dad's favorite place to go, but it's where we started our first business online, where we built our first website. The first website we built was actually selling like health and well-being products. My dad was quite a spiritual man, and we used to sell this little like massage oil that you could only get in Bali. We started selling that online, and yeah, from there it was kind of like I just started joining system after system to expand my knowledge and understand what was working. Started working with, even though I was working in full-time employment, in the evenings I was doing my own bits. I started my own consultancy, working with clients and whatnot, and joined system after system to see what was good, what was shit. Found some really shit systems out there, really, really bad ones, but also found some really, really good ones, which is when I kind of stumbled across Change, and signed up and used the strategies and made some really good money online. And it was on a webinar one night when I sort of came clean with Ryan and Reese. I was like, I've done this much on the store. And they were like, what the and then like afterwards, like we're chatting, and they were like, mate, what you do is really good. Like the stores you build are amazing. The results that you're getting are great. Like what? And it's like, oh, I didn't tell anybody what I did when I started. And I just made out like I was complete newbie.
Yeah.
And
little
yeah, it
spy
was
in the
like,
background, making all this money.
it was a
Like,
little bit, yeah. It was like, okay, I'll come clean. This is actually, I do e-commerce. And it was at that point that, you know, Ryan and Reese, we had a chat and stuff. And he said, well, why don't you come on board and support members? So I started that on a part-time basis, just supporting members from web design perspective, and sort of just general business operations, things like that, to the point where actually it just got like a Change had grown so much that I couldn't support on a part-time basis. People were saying I can't get in.
Well,
with
we've now
you for
got
like
what,
3
like
weeks. It's
1,000 active members.
grown quickly, man.
yeah, massively,
Yeah, and that's where you come into it.
And
Yeah.
I guess so. I
Yeah.
guess so.
So yeah, it's been a journey, and sort of stopped working in the corporate world a couple of years ago, 3 years ago.
Yeah,
Can't remember now.
I think we all roughly say 3-4 years ago.
Yeah, and like, you know, do this full time. You know, still running my own online businesses in the background, whilst supporting Change members, whilst traveling the world, whilst raising my son. It's
How many roles in
Well,
life?
I know. And it's like, you know, we talk about it. It's like you're not chasing the money, you chase the freedom. But, you know, and you think, like, some people might look at us and go, well, what freedom have you got?
Yeah.
And it's like, no, I had that freedom. I have the freedom to choose to do
Yeah.
this.
Yeah.
It's not like I don't need to do it, because I don't need to do this stuff with everything that's going on in the background. But we love what we do.
And I think for us as well, like, you almost take for granted just being able to do that.
Yeah.
Like, oh, if
100%.
like your child's ill at school, I'll just go pick them up. Oh, you can just set her.
Yeah, I'll
I
be there
don't
in a
have
minute.
to ask anyone.
Exactly,
like,
yeah.
really little things that actually, that's not how most people live their life.
No.
Yeah.
So it is amazing, but we do have busy lives. But I guess we wouldn't want to be like doing anything else. Really.
No. It's
No, you got
busy.
to do what you love. You got
Yeah.
to do what you love,
Yeah.
do you know what I mean? And you're smashing it, James, now as well, with helping
Yeah.
members as well. Do you know
Thanks,
what I mean?
man.
Yeah.
So,
And your new brand as well.
Yeah,
Exciting.
yeah, we've got the new brand that we're pushing as well. That's going well, and we've already got. With that, we've got products lined up for the next year to 2 years on what we're going to release. Like, and that's one of the things that we, with this new brand that we're building, and we're trying to want to use it as a case study for members to say, look, like, don't just think next month. Don't just think next quarter.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we're thinking, well, 2 years down the line, we want to release this product.
Yeah.
Which may come forward. That product ideation may fall into nothing, and actually something might change down the line. But always kind of be
You've got that plan.
2-3 steps ahead in your business.
absolutely,
Otherwise,
yeah.
as soon as you get to that point of going, well, what do I do now? I've done that. What do I do now? Always have those other
You need to have
ideas.
a plan.
You
need to have
do.
a plan. But
Yeah.
to be fair, my background is probably a little bit different to all of yours.
Yeah.
Because I was in construction. Construction's like, it's your hands on all the time, and it can put a lot of stress on your body and stuff like that. But at a younger age, I I was quite silly. I was out partying, you know, doing stupid things, as you do when you're young, really.
I mean, I don't think that's too dissimilar from the rest of us, Josh.
No,
We were all doing that,
but
mate.
my mindset was like,
Yeah.
it was all over the place.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? I made
Yeah.
the wrong decisions
Yeah.
and stuff like that. But then I went into construction. It sort of helped me a little bit, to be fair, because it put my mindset a bit better. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I was doing like air conditioning. So I was just fitting air conditioning on walls and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And before I started that, I didn't even know what that was.
Yeah.
Like, just a box on a wall. How's that work? But I've always been like, if there's something new that I can learn it.
Yeah.
I've always had that in me. So I did like air conditioning. Then I went into like the corporate. I sort of worked my way all the way up. Then went into corporate and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Was project manager. But then I'd sort of just got to a point where I was looking at people like 20, 30, 40 years ahead of me. And I was just like,
I don't want to be there.
I don't want this.
No.
I don't want this.
Yeah.
And I think when I had my first child, that's when everything sort of changed for me.
Yeah.
I was when I was in like the corporate world, I was home late all the time. I was out early, out the door early,
Yeah.
traveling to work,
Yeah.
coming home late at like 7 p.m, something like that.
Yeah.
And I'd spend like an hour with my with my new child, and I'd go to bed.
Yeah.
And I'd wake up, and it was like I'm living for the weekend,
Yeah. I know,
just
mate.
to have that freedom and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
I had sort of, like most people, and I say this to everyone has it in them,
Oh, yeah.
but I started to look online at different ways that you can make money, and weren't really money, just make more time for myself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I had no time. I was just constantly working and
Yeah.
stuff like that.
Yeah.
And when I wanted to generate more money to do the good things that I want in life, I
That's
was
all-
working the weekends.
Yeah. So less,
So I'm
less
trading,
time.
so I'm trading more of my time
Yeah.
and away from my
Money.
family.
Yeah.
So I'm like, this
Yeah.
can't be life, right? I mean,
Yeah.
there's got to be more to it. So I started looking on like Google and seeing what other ways that you can make money. Of course, you had like the Forex and all
Yeah.
that stuff, and I knew I'd never trusted that anyway, so I sort of stayed away from it. But then I come across like e-commerce, selling products online, started networking with people online, and then come across Change, and it just sort of, I knew straight away that this was for me.
Yeah.
Like this was something that I needed to do. And when I was in my role in a 9 to 5, I was very good at building relationships, and that's why now I'm on social media heavily, because I like giving value to people, and I feel like I can build a relationship with people that I don't know.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that's why I'm always on social media. I'm
Yeah.
talking my stories and trying to help
Yeah,
people.
yeah.
You know. But obviously, I started with the e-commerce side of things.
Yeah.
So I started building online stores. You probably remember the baby store.
I
that
do.
had.
I do, mate.
At the baby store, and made like great money with it.
It did.
Like incredible amounts of money.
Yeah.
But
It feels like years ago. Well, I mean,
It was years ago.
It was, but in terms of e-commerce, it wasn't years ago.
no, it wasn't. No.
But yeah, I still remember that.
didn't we? Like,
In terms of social media, like you think 10 years is nothing.
No.
And like
flyers, man.
we see the positive of social media, and obviously, like I
Yeah.
said, the benefit that it can be.
Yeah.
But you think in a year time, in 2 years time, when Elon Musk is going to change Twitter into it's a sales platform, Amazon, Apple's going to bring out their own marketing platform. So for that, like, the expansion and the growth that we've seen in such a short period of time.
Yeah.
But again, like I said, we've all gone through the process, and I think that Josh, more than anyone, to build that element of trust,
Yeah.
you had to understand the process of change
Yeah.
to
Yeah,
then
100%.
have an element of trust, because you've got it's quite easy to say something without belief,
Yeah.
but you can spot that if you said without belief.
Yeah.
You need to believe in what you do as well. But
Yeah.
it just goes to show from like everyone's story here.
Yeah.
Like no one come from the e-commerce background.
No.
So like anyone can do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyone
Yeah.
can do it. If you have the right mindset,
And-
you understand the process.
And you've got to have that drive. And I think like,
Yeah,
I
of
resonate
course,
a lot
yeah.
with like what you were saying about whole, like the whole trading your time for money. I think we all do. Like, because I remember even like working at the airport, the airport's a 24/7 operation.
Yeah.
So there were days when I had to be there at 5 a.m. There were days when you're still there at 9 o'clock at night. I remember during snowy days when shit hit the fan and I was sat in a tractor for 18 hours and someone would bring me something to eat in the tractor whilst you're trying to keep the airport open, cleaning sweeping like the pathways and
Yeah.
runways and all that type of shit. And it's like you say, you've got to want more out of
Gotta
life,
want it.
and you've got to have that discipline to do the crap you don't want to
Yeah,
do.
and believe that it can happen.
Yeah.
Because as soon as you start thinking, it's just, why would it happen? Like, it's not going to happen for me.
100%.
Yeah.
Like, you just, that's where you drop
Like,
off.
you're in the perfect position where we are all experts in our individual fields. Like, so we
Yeah.
are all experts in our individual fields, and
Yeah.
we've all been through the process of. We've all had somewhat of a normal job. We've all progressed through our normal jobs, and so we all know there's more out there.
Yeah.
But I think hopefully you guys have kind of, like, you guys watching have kind of understood a little bit more about. We're not robotic. We have been through the process. We
Yeah.
understand the process, and like you guys, we are here to continue to help you. Like I said, we are always only a message away, and if you do, so you know what? Sometimes it's okay to feel alone because we've been there. We know that you can feel alone, but the process is like you're not alone.
Yeah.
You have a team. Like I said, the purpose of change is that we are here to be that support element. We know what you're going through, and like I said, we've been day 1, we've been day 30, we've been process selecting, we've been product producing and stuff like that. We know where you're at. But like I said, guys, hopefully we broke down a little bit more of a barrier for you guys to understand who we are, where we've come from. And hopefully we'll do it again in 6 months' time where we'll have some of the members join us as well, and they can tell us the process.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Even some new team members.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hopefully she'll get rid of Anna.
Thanks.
Bye, guys.
Cheers, guys.
Cheers.